It was past midnight when I decided to pull off the highway. I'd been driving for nearly 9 hours, somewhere between Kansas and Oklahoma. The kind of stretch of road where gas stations are rare and radio stations fade into static. My GPS had been flickering on and off, and my eyes were beginning to blur from exhaustion. When I saw the glowing red vacancy sign in the distance, I felt relief. It flickered weakly against the pitch-black sky. Mile 19 Motel. The sign buzzed like an old bug zapper. The building itself looked decades old, a single row of rooms with chipped green paint and a soda machine humming next to the office. There was only one car in the lot, an old station wagon parked crook near the end. Inside the office, a short man with thinning gray hair was watching an old box TV. He looked up slowly when I entered. "Need a room?" he asked in a gravelly voice. "Yeah," I said, setting my ID on the counter, "just for the night." He glanced at the ID for barely a second before handing me an old brass key on a wooden tag that said Room 7. "Cash only," he said. I hesitated. "You don't take cards?" He just looked at me. So I handed him $40, and he smiled faintly, revealing crooked yellow teeth. "The ice machine's broken, and don't go wandering around out back." That last part threw me off. "Why not?" He looked back down to his TV. "Coyotes." I wasn't sure if he was joking, but I didn't ask. The room smelled faintly of mold and something else, like old cigarettes and damp carpet. There was a single dim lamp on the nightstand and an outdated floral blanket on the bed. I locked the door, pulled the curtains closed, and tried to get some sleep. Sometime around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound. It wasn't loud, just a soft, dragging noise, like something brushing against the concrete outside my door. I sat up, listening. Then came the faint sound of breathing right outside. My pulse kicked up. I quietly walked to the window, pulling the curtain just slightly aside. There was nothing there, just the pale parking lot, the soda machine's flicker, and the station wagon. I was about to lie back down when I noticed something off about the car. Its trunk was open. At first, I thought maybe the owner forgot to close it, until I saw the inside. It wasn't luggage. It was a bundle of something covered by a tarp. And beneath the tarp, there was a faint red stain that glistened under the light. My heart started to pound. I stepped back from the window and froze when I heard the dragging sound again. Closer. It stopped right outside my door. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then the door handle turned. Once, twice. Locked. Thank God. Then silence. I stood there for nearly 5 minutes, my hand gripping the lap like a weapon. Eventually, I heard slow steps fade away. By sunrise, I packed my things and left without showering. The man at the desk wasn't there. His chair was empty, the TV still playing static. I dropped the key on the counter and walked out. When I reached my car, I couldn't resist glancing toward the station wagon. The tarp was gone. So was the car. As I pulled onto the highway, I saw something in my rearview mirror that made me slam the brakes. There was a body bag, half buried in the ditch by the Mile 19 sign. I called the sheriff's department once I had service again. They said they'd send someone out, took my report, and that was it. A week later, I tried to look up Mile 19 Motel online to see if there was any follow-up. Nothing. No address, no record of a business by that name. But when I checked my phone's photos that night, I noticed something strange. The very first picture in my camera roll
One I didn't take showed the outside of my motel room door. Room 7, taken at 2:03 a.m.
It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. Just me, a rented cabin, and a few days away from work. But when the storm hit halfway through my drive up north, I realized I'd have to stop for the night. The rain was so heavy I could barely see past my headlights, and the road twisted endlessly through thick pine trees. That's when I saw it. A faded sign on the side of the highway, half hidden behind overgrown weeds. Redwood Inn. Vacancy. The place looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 70s. A row of 12 rooms in a long L-shaped building, lit only by a few flickering bulbs. A single light glowed in the front office, where a middle-aged woman in a blue cardigan sat behind the counter, knitting. She looked up when I entered. "You look soaked, sweetheart," she said, smiling. "Storm caught you, didn't it?" I nodded. "Yeah, just need a place to sleep for the night." She hesitated a moment, then said, "You'll be in room 9. Cash only. Card machine's been down for months." I paid her, took the key, and headed back out into the rain. Room 9 was near the far end, beside a door marked Maintenance. The room smelled faintly like pine cleaner and old smoke. The wallpaper was peeling, and the carpet squished slightly when I stepped on it. But I didn't care. I was exhausted. I changed into dry clothes, set my phone on the nightstand, and crawled into bed. Outside, the storm roared, thunder shaking the windows. Sometime in the middle of the night, I awoke. The rain had stopped, but something else had replaced it. A soft, tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. It came from the bathroom. At first, I thought it was the sink dripping, but when I turned on the light, the sound stopped. The sink was dry. Then I saw something strange, a wet footprint on the tile floor. Just one, shaped like a bare foot, leading toward the shower. I pulled the curtain aside. Nothing. The drain gurgled quietly, and for some reason it smelled faintly of dirt, like wet earth after rain. I didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, the sky was still gray. When I went to the office to check out, the woman wasn't there. Instead, an older man, maybe her husband, sat behind the counter, reading a newspaper. "Checking out?" he asked without looking up. "Yeah, the woman last night gave me room 9. He froze for a second. Slowly, he lowered the paper. "What woman?" "The one who checked me in. Blue cardigan, short gray hair." He stared at me. "Sir, I run this place alone. There's no woman here." I thought maybe he was joking, until he stood and said, "Room 9's been closed for weeks." I felt my stomach drop. "No, that's not possible. I stayed there last night." He grabbed a ring of keys and walked out with me, raincoat pulled tight. When we reached room 9, he tried the key in the lock. It didn't fit. Then he used a different key, and the door creaked open. The smell hit me first. Rot. Damp air. The room was empty. No sheets, no lamp, no nightstand, just a bare mattress covered in mildew. And on the wall above the bed, written in something brownish red, were words scrawled across the faded wallpaper. "Stay quiet. She hears." I told him everything about the woman, the tapping, the footprint. He listened, then led me back to the office. From an old drawer, he pulled out a faded photograph, a black and white image of a younger woman standing in front of the motel. "Was this her?" he asked. It was. Same face, same blue cardigan. "She was my wife," he said quietly. "She drowned out back in the septic pond 30 years ago." I didn't say anything. I just left. A week later, I checked my phone, scrolling through my photos to delete the road trip pictures. Buried between two photos I didn't remember taking was one that made me freeze. It was a blurry image of me asleep in the motel bed. The angle was from the bathroom doorway, and if you looked close enough, behind the curtain, in the reflection of the mirror, you could see a woman in a blue cardigan.
I used to work the night shift at a roadside motel just outside a small town called Ashford Creek. It wasn't exactly glamorous. 12 rooms, a vending machine that only worked half the time, and a neon vacancy sign that buzzed loud enough to drive you insane after a few hours. But it was quiet work. Or at least it was supposed to be. The motel had a rule. Simple enough. Don't rent out room 3. The manager, an older guy named Bill, told me that on my first night. He was dead serious when he said it. Room 3 stays locked. No exceptions. Even if we're full, you say it's under maintenance. I laughed, thinking he was messing with the new guy. But he didn't laugh back. So I didn't ask questions. The first few weeks were fine. Most nights I'd sit behind the front desk, drinking burnt coffee and scrolling through my phone. Truckers, road trippers, families, same kind of people every night. Then around my 4th week, I started hearing things. It always happened around 2:30 a.m. The sound of footsteps, soft, deliberate, pacing back and forth in the hallway. I'd peek out, expecting a late guest or maybe a lost kid, but the hall was always empty. The strange part was that the footsteps always stopped right in front of room 3. One night, curiosity got the better of me. It was just after 3 a.m. and the motel was dead quiet. Rain drizzled outside, tapping gently on the glass door. That's when I heard it again. Slow, dragging footsteps in the hallway. I grabbed my flashlight and crept toward the sound. When I turned the corner, I saw something that made my stomach twist. The door to room 3 was slightly open. That door was supposed to stay locked at all times. I know because I checked it every night. The light inside flickered faintly, like someone had turned on the old bedside lamp. I whispered, "Hello?" No answer. I pushed the door open. The smell hit first.
old, wet carpet and something sour underneath it, like spoiled milk. The bed was made, but the sheets were wrinkled, as if someone had just gotten out of it. There was an old duffel bag in the corner, zipped halfway open. Inside were clothes, men's clothes, and a pair of boots that looked decades old. And then I noticed something else. The mirror on the opposite wall was cracked, and in the center of the crack, written in foggy streaks, were the words, "Still here." The room was cold, not air-conditioned cold, deeper than that, like standing in a freezer. I could see my breath. I backed out slowly, shut the door, and locked it. The next morning, I told Bill what happened. He just stared at me for a long time, then said quietly, "You went into room 3, didn't you?" I nodded. He sighed, rubbing his eyes. "You shouldn't have done that. Not after what happened to that man." "What man?" I asked. He hesitated. Then he told me. About 10 years ago, before I worked there, a trucker named Allen rented room 3. He was supposed to stay one night, but when housekeeping came the next morning, his truck was still parked out front. The bed was made, his bag was in the corner, but he was gone. No signs of struggle, no broken locks, nothing. The police came, searched the woods behind the motel for days, but never found him. Bill said after that, guests started complaining about noises, pacing, whispering, the sound of someone trying the doorknob from the inside. He'd even had one woman check out in the middle of the night, claiming someone stood outside her window, just breathing. I told myself it was all superstition, just stories that got twisted over time. Until my last night working there. It was quiet, almost peaceful. Around 2:45 a.m., I heard something crash. Glass breaking, maybe. Down the hall. I grabbed my flashlight and went to check. And sure enough, the door to room 3 was wide open again. This time, I didn't go in. I just stood at the threshold, shining my light across the room. Everything was still, empty. Then, something moved. The duffel bag shifted, just slightly. And from somewhere, deep in the shadows under the bed, came a low, guttural breathing sound. Slow, steady, like someone trying to keep quiet. My light flickered, and when it came back on, I saw boots. Old, mud-caked boots sticking out from beneath the bed. I didn't wait. I slammed the door, locked it, and ran straight to the office. When I looked back through the glass window of room 3, I could see movement under the thin curtain of room 3, like a shadow, pacing back and forth. The next morning, the cops came. They searched the room top to bottom. No one was there. Just an old duffel bag and the cracked mirror. But when the officer looked closer, he noticed something I hadn't. Etched into the corner of the mirror, beneath the crack, were words so faint you could only see them when the light hit just right. Checked in, never left. That was my last night at the Redwood Motel. Sometimes when I drive past that stretch of highway,
I still see the old neon sign glowing in the dark. And every time I do, I swear I catch a glimpse of someone standing in the window of room 3, just watching.